This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we'll call the zoning board meeting of February 21st, 2023 to order at 6 o'clock. And the first case is our continued case, ZB 23-02, Tina DeFox. And I don't know, she doesn't probably have to read.
I have them if you want me to read them.
I don't remember if we read through the criteria, which is the restart from the beginning. Okay. Yeah, so if you don't mind just putting your 5 criteria into the record.
Yep.
And we'll just go from the site.
Sure. I have a new one.
So just for clarification,
I'll give these to Leanne.
Variance from Article 8.1 to allow a 1988 mobile home where 1995 or newer is allowed.
Okay. Number one, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because this is a mobile home park and it doesn't affect the general public of Tilton. This is the conformity to the property and what its current use is. Number two, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because this will not overcrowd or infringe upon any abutters. This has been approved by the ZBA at an earlier meeting. It will not impede on the health, safety, or general welfare of the community. The Gaslight Co-op has been here on multiple occasions in support of this. Abutting neighbors have come into support of this variance. Neighbors from across the street have also been here to observe and didn't object to this variance being granted. Granted, the variance would do substantial justice because this is consistent with the area's present use. Granting this would be not in any way an injustice to the citizens of Tilton. If the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished. All but one mobile home is older than this one. Once completed, this mobile home will only increase values of the park due to its specific age. When or if this is ever sold, it could be potentially sold at a higher price than those that are already in the co-op. Unnecessary hardship. Owing to a special condition of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area, a denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because the co-op is in need of the additional income to help offset some of the expenses. Someone is in need of affordable housing. Me and my husband have put significant amount of money already into this move. The town of Tilton has an opportunity to help both parties. And also, if it needs to be moved out, it's significant money and finding another place to put it.
All set?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anybody have any questions? No? Not there? No? Any public comment on this case? We'll close public comment and deliberate as a board. I think as long as you guys are all good with that. I think we're basically just continuing after good call. We're continuing after our site visit for this year. So if everybody's all set, we'll.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Any initial thoughts?
I guess my initial thoughts after visiting it on Saturday was the state of being of the trailer. I didn't find it in excellent shape. I found the siding to be of 2 colors, no skirt, and I'm sure that will go on later. Underneath, I found, issues. And then upon looking on the slider into the kitchen is basically destroyed in there. And so I don't, in my mind, feel that we're bringing an excellent in-shape trailer into the town of Tilton at this moment.
I agree.
I think my hang up on this too is that I don't know how the town is gonna have this. Gotta put my thoughts into words here. I don't know what standard the community will hold the construction to. So it's not a home, so it's not going to get all the same building inspections that a home construction would.
No, it does.
No, we closed comment.
And Leanne, if my understanding is correct, that we don't follow the same inspection formula for a mobile home that a new home construction does.
We don't. It has to meet HUD standards.
Right. And that's kind of been the hang up going all along. And to that, there's definitely some gray area here. There's some changes in the town ordinance to clarify this. There was some, the ordinance wasn't written well. And normally I would kind of defer on behalf of the individual sort of thing if there wasn't a big hang up to the town, but I just don't understand how the town can say whether this was built to code or not. Because it doesn't meet geez, I can't use my words tonight. It doesn't meet the 1995 criteria that the town spelled out. As flawed or not as it is, that is what the town wrote, and it doesn't meet that. But there isn't another mechanism for the town to kind of follow up on it, and that's been my big hang up on this. Yeah, all right, right now it's not in great shape, but maybe she fixes it up, but there's no way for us, in my understanding, to make sure that it happens, so to speak.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure. Mm-hmm.
That's been my,
Yeah, but another thing was moving the mobile home here. It wasn't checked with the town of what the specifications were to move it from Belmont to Tilton.
correct.
So that began the snowball effect to where we are today.
Yes, and I think in her, report here, this is a co-op under her unnecessary hardship, no fair and substantial relationship under that criteria. This is a co-op where 30 homes sit. They were granted an additional 10 lots to be filled. We have over $20,000 invested after being granted our first appeal. We didn't grant any appeal that allowed them to do anything. The only appeal that we granted was that we understood the language to be similar.
Mhm.
We didn't give any go-aheads to go do anything. We just agreed with her interpretation of it. So I just feel like that has to be clarified. We didn't approve anything. We agreed with the interpretation.
And my
Am I
note
allowed to
is,
speak? Go ahead.
one of my notes
I don't
is,
know. I don't think we closed public comment.
Brian wants to say
one of my notes is, I think the whole situation though could have been handled different from the beginning.
Correct.
Maybe a little more information to them. I don't know if that was conveyed to them that it had to be 1995 or newer, but between Gaslight should have maybe
Mhm.
given them more information, and the town of Tilton should have said, nothing older than 1995 or has to meet HUD standards of 1995. So I feel from the beginning, maybe it wasn't, more information could have been conveyed.
It's messy for sure.
It's messy.
Mhm.
I just don't know how the town makes sure that the standards are met. I just don't know how that facilitates that mechanism.
You can go through the 5 criteria as well.
What's that?
And you need to go through the 5
Yes,
criteria.
we do. Yep. So that's been my hang up. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. I don't know if you want to.
I don't know if you can.
Because even if you grant them a building permit, Chuck doesn't know what to go by.
Well, right.
It's supposed to be
He can't take
1995.
home construction building, requirements and apply it to a mobile home, but there isn't a 1995 standard to adhere it to. It's just, it's messy for sure. Well, do you just guys want to go through the 5 criteria and
Yep.
we
Yep.
can talk about each one and
Yep.
see where we stand?
Yeah.
Granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. She states because there are many in the park that are older in the co-op already.
They were grandfathered in.
That are grandfathered in, correct?
Correct.
To me, the public interest of the variance is to maintain the quality, so to speak, of housing stock in the community.
A standard.
That's a standard of the housing stock. I think in her case, it's gray. This brings me back to my same spot. I just don't know how we uphold the public interest in this process. Please feel free to speak. I don't need to be the only one who talks. If the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. Again, if we could find a way to make sure that the finished product was of a certain quality, I believe the spirit of the ordinance could be observed. But the way it's written, I don't see how we meet the spirit of the ordinance.
I would say with the state that the trailer is in now, it is not. And upon driving around the rest of the park and seeing the actual neatness of the park, I was impressed. I would say, the trailer is not.
Perform.
Yeah. That's just me.
Yeah.
Granting the variance would do substantial justice. She states this is a home that will be fully remodeled and guaranteed to pass all building standards. I see that the variance, passing this variance would give it the justice, the idea being that we, give good, affordable housing stock into the community. I come back to the same hang up. I'm with you, the way it currently stands, it isn't there, but I don't know how you could envision a finished product with no benchmarks along the way. If the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding property would not be diminished.
We don't know
Again,
that.
there's
We
no
don't, yeah.
there's no
That's ambiguous.
proof one way or the other whether properties would be improved or diminished. An unnecessary hardship owing to a special condition of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area. Denial of variance would result in an unnecessary hardship because, one, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. Where it stands now, it's not meeting the public purpose of the ordinance, which was to set a date standard for housing stock. I keep coming back to this. We don't have a mechanism for when their finished product is done. To me, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, the intent of this ordinance was that if it's 95 or newer, then it's met a standard. Here it is. This is the year it was
Livable.
manufactured.
I believe that's what the town intent was,
Right.
for 95 and newer.
That's my understanding. And I totally understand the idea that you bring it in and you rehab it and you spruce it up, but there just isn't a way to objectively qualify that. The proposed use is the proposed use is a reasonable one. I think the proposed use is reasonable. And then explain how, if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. She states the variance is only due to the year of the home, being most are older. This is to be used in 9 more lots that may face the same challenge moving forward. There are older units in the lot, but
They were grandfathered in.
there are homes that are built in the town before we had building codes. I don't think that the fact that older units exist really applies to this because of that reason. At some point, you have to set a standard and start adhering to it. And there's always going to be things that exist that don't fall under that.
Agree.
So you want to take a vote on each criteria? Is that how you want to go forward? Do a general.
I'd say we follow the standard and vote on the whole thing.
Yep, I agree.
Motions?
I make a motion to approve cases ZB 23-02, a request for a variance from Article 8-1 to allow the installation of a 1988 mobile home at Gaslight Village where a 1995 or newer is allowed.
Motion's been made. Any seconds?
Second.
Seconded. In discussion? I don't feel like I'm just beating my own dead horse here. So anyone else, please speak up. I'm generally, I think it's messy enough. I think there was a lot of miscommunication. I kind of tend to err on the side of the individual, but my hang up is how would we as a board, if we approved this, how could we make sure that it was built to a certain standard?
Correct. Conformity.
And that reasonably applies to the rest of the world and how it operates. Like, how would we ask the town to go into a mobile home and then hold it to the same standards as a stick-built home?
You can't.
You can't.
So, motion's been
Anyone else have any discussion? No? All right. Those in favor? None. And those against? Nay?
Aye.
Or how do you say it? No.
Nay.
Aye.
Say nay.
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 Can you just list the criteria that it doesn't meet for the motion?
Okay. Do we each have to say the criteria that we don't,
Yeah, so based on not meeting the
Not meaning 95.
criteria or
Not, yeah, I'm not.
all
meeting
5
the-
criteria?
I can tell how I personally don't think it meets the criteria
If it's denied, it has to be based on,
based on a criteria. Okay.
that's why I kind of said you want to do one at a time, but
All right, well, we can do that. In that vein, we can say which criteria do we want to just each public, how about we each just say which criteria we don't feel it meets? Does
yeah, I
that
mean, if
meet
you all
what you
agree,
need?
yeah.
Okay, I would say that the first granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. I feel they failed there.
Okay, I would
Let's just
say,
take a vote on each criteria and then we'll just see which one fails. Want to do that? And those will be the,
okay, we can do that. We can do that. All right, so those, how do we word this?
so the first criteria.
Those
Is it-
who believe that the application meets the first criteria. This is, I don't know, this is messy. I would think I would rather go through and just
You
have
want-
each of us say which criteria we
Okay.
don't think it meets.
Okay.
And you think
And
it's
I'll keep a
criteria
tally.
one?
I think it's definitely criteria 1.
I don't
Yes.
believe
Yes.
it doesn't, I don't believe it meets criteria 1, and I don't believe we meet criteria 5.
I agree with 1.
I agree with 1. I agree with 3 because there's no conformity, so how will we know that?
Justice has been done?
Right.
Right.
And number 5, I don't believe there's a hardship there.
All right, so you do not agree with 1, 3, and 5,
Correct.
And I'm 1.
and
Yep.
1.
Yep.
1.
So everyone thinks it doesn't meet criteria 1.
Correct,
Correct.
And then Matt and Ann, you think it doesn't meet the hardship?
correct. And I believe Brian was included.
Yes.
Brian,
Correct.
oh, you're a 5 as well. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, it does
Then I
not
can
pass.
form the decision letter. Okay.
Okay, next case, 23-04, a special permit for the preserve on Winnisquam.
Hi.
Evening.
Chris Solomon from Salmon Delia Architects here. We've applied for a special permit for the preserve at Winnisquam for removal of soil from the property. So here for your review and approval.
So we didn't really get any criteria from the town on this, and there isn't really criteria that seems to exist for it. It sounds like our understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, is that you need a permit to remove soil from a specific lot or property
In a particular district, correct?
in a particular district.
Special permit.
A special permit. And is my understanding correct that you guys haven't removed soil from the town? You've just moved soil from one piece of property to an adjoining piece of property?
We have moved it, but I believe some soil has left the town,
Okay.
which went to Pembroke. But yeah,
Right, so some soil that I understand has gone to Dirt Doctor in Pembroke and
Yeah.
topsoil is being stockpiled. Is that correct?
yeah, topsoil is being stockpiled on site to be screened and reused on the property. And then any soils that were deemed unsuitable per the geotechnical report for use as structural fill on the property has been removed from the site, which is all part of our submission and review by your third-party engineer and the state's review of the property.
I was just going to ask, the state has to review soil that gets moved, correct?
Well, yeah, they have an AOT permit.
Yep, yeah, AOT has gone through all that and it complies with their standards and what we've submitted to them for review and has been pre-approved.
Any other, well, we do, you guys don't have any other questions? Any public comment? Nope, no public comment. We'll close public comment and do the deliberation amongst the board. I don't,
You don't have to go through criteria.
no, there's
There's no criteria.
Hold it
I
to.
don't see any.
Just
Yeah.
make a motion.
I guess this is just whether we think that what they're doing is reasonable.
I think it is.
Best
Seems
interest of the town is all it says. so.
Right, the fact that they're saving the topsoil.
the soil that's most valuable is staying in town.
Yeah.
Any motions?
I'll make a motion to accept ZB 2304, that they're, accept the special permit to move the,
Approve a special permit.
to approve the special permit to evacuation of material in the resort commercial district.
Motion been made.
I Yeah, go ahead.
I'll second it. Seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? None? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, nay. And the permit is approved. Thank you for
Thank you very
coming.
much.
Thank you. Good luck on your climb.
Yeah.
All right, the next case is a special permit from Article 3.2.2, ZB case 2305.
Good evening. How you doing? My name is Chris Rice with TF Moran. I was made aware of the same special permit requirement. I'm here on behalf of the owner and the applicant, which is COP Tilton. The property's at 2 Business Park Drive. It's the medical dialysis clinic that is currently under construction. That was approved by the planning board last March of 2022. I believe construction started in the September-October timeframe. They have removed material from the site, but I did talk to the general contractor. He said it was removed to a property on Sanborn Road that is within the town of Tilton, and the topsoil was stockpiled on site and it's going to be reused. They might bring back some of the material that they stored at the Sanborn lot, but once they get closer to the end of construction, because they didn't have any room left on site. It's a pretty tight site with setbacks and the wetland buffer in the back and such. So we're requesting a special permit from the board. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions here?
No.
Do you know what the materials that they took off of the site were?
It was a mix of really ledge and soil. I mean, the site does have a decent amount of ledge on it. That's the best of my knowledge for that.
Any public comment?
Nope.
Yes, sir. You just have to speak into the mic and state your name. I believe your address, or at least town.
Hi, I'm Tom Damon, Cattlefield Road. A little concerned about where the topsoil of the loam is being stored right now. Someplace on Sanborn Road in the town of Tilton. Well, I don't see any place in Sanborn Road. I'm on Sanborn Road at least 2 or 3 times a day. I don't see any. So I understand some of that topsoil is going to be back to use for landscaping purposes.
Yes.
Or what's the balance of it going to be used for?
Well, to clarify, and again, this is what I relayed to the board. I haven't seen it personally. I called the general contractor. He told me that they've stored the topsoil on site and stockpiled it on site, but they did have earth removal, which is the ledge and the soil mixture, to a property that's on Sanborn Road. I asked him if it was in the town of Tilton. He said yes.
Well, specifically, you're asking to have the blasting debris and the rock removed in this particular application for a permit?
No, they are just asking to allow the excavation of material in the industrial district. Doesn't specify what type of material.
That the ordinance doesn't say anything about what type of material.
So they could excavate anything.
Per our ordinance, they can
the
excavate
ordinance,
anything.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Including loam.
Yeah. It doesn't specify they can't excavate loam.
What's the sense in having the ordinance?
That is a great question, sir.
You know?
Well, from what I heard, he said the loam hasn't moved. And so if you're concerned about the ledge, I'm sure this gentleman could possibly tell you where the ledge is stored so you can go view the ledge that they're moving.
Well, I was under the impression that they wanted a permit to remove the rock that was there from the blasting. There's huge, big rocks on site there. That I have no objection to. What my objection to is where is the loam or topsoil, and how is it going to be used?
Our understanding, based on his testimony, is that their topsoil is still on their property, and that they intend on using it to cover that property back over. I mean, if you have evidence of the contrary, we would love
I don't
to
see
hear
any
it.
topsoil there. I go by there every day.
Okay. Do you have any photos or anything?
No.
No. Okay. Is that all you have to enter in?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? All right, we'll close public comment and deliberate amongst the board. I mean, the way that this permit is worded is that if you built a house, you couldn't move your dirt off of your property if you built a home.
Correct.
We don't have about 20 years of history of holding any projects in the community to this. I think that the ordinance is very, very liberally written. And all it's doing is asking these projects to come before the zoning board and get a special permit to move excavation material off of the particular properties that they're developing.
With the special permit, can you make restrictions on it? Could you sit there and state that we give you and grant you permission, but all topsoil must remain on site?
I guess we could. I mean, it's in the individual's vested interest to keep the topsoil on their own
I
site.
agree,
Otherwise, they're going to go
agree.
purchase topsoil to
I agree.
re-landscape their property.
Right.
Leanne, is the purpose of the ordinance to,
I have no idea.
Is it to keep gravel
I
pits from?
don't know if it was to get
The
money
only,
for the town?
the only information I got from one of the select board members was that 100 years ago, they were trying to keep farms from being stripped of their topsoil. And so now I guess we are trying to apply that philosophy to commercial properties that are being developed. So I think it just needs to be updated and maybe the true purpose may be made clear so that we understand where the limitations are. If it is just an agricultural region or farms that are being reused, but I guess I don't really have a lot of guidance other than the special permit. And it does say that, you can make the decision in your best interest, but even the topsoil, I don't know what that's going to do for the town, whether it's there or it really more benefits, like you said, the developer to keep his topsoil than does the town if it's already a commercial site.
I have a little bit of a hard time retroactively applying this to projects that have already gone through the town's planning board, gone through all of these projects are projects that are
Underway.
happening.
Yeah.
These aren't projects that are asking to happen.
All right.
There's a building that sits on this site that has gone through the town's planning process, that has come to the zoning board before. I have a little bit of a hang up on retroactively doing that, but
Agree.
I don't think the town has provided us really solid guidance. The ordinance certainly doesn't provide solid guidance on what they're looking for out of this. And to me, what this particular project has asked for or is doing doesn't seem unreasonable.
No. Yeah, all right.
Anyone else disagrees? Any motions?
I make a motion to approve case ZB 23-05 for a special permit per Article 3-2-2 to allow excavation of material in the industrial district.
Second that.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
No.
Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. The permit is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, case 23-06, a special permit from Article 3.2.2 to allow excavation of material in the industrial district.
Hello there. My name is Jeff Lewis from North Point Engineering, along with Gil Duquette and Brian Picanco from U-Haul. We're going to talk about same special permit you folks have just been talking about for the project that Brian and Gil are constructing at their U-Haul facility down on Route 3, Laconia Road. At the existing U-Haul facility, they're proposing a big new building here. This is the existing U-Haul facility, or a big new building over here. We've been through the planning board, the zoning board. We have all of our local approvals in place. We have state permits, alteration of terrain, driveway permits, septic permits. So they've begun construction. They're underway right now, trying to keep going, ramping up, just removing typical thing. They have removed topsoil from the site. Is currently drying out off-site right now at a different property, but they'll be bringing it back to screen it once the construction's finished, so that they can use it for topsoil on the property. Other than that, it's just standard common excavation from the site to get down to subgrade levels and build the building and the pavements and stormwater management system. So Gil can answer any questions if you have it on the construction operation. Other than that, we're just asking for the same approval.
So you're taking obviously the construction to build poor foundations, that sort of thing. That stuff's
Correct.
going
Yeah.
away.
Yep.
You took the topsoil off site, the topsoil's
Dry it
coming
out.
back.
Yeah, it's so wet. We moved it. We dried it.
Just,
And
just to add to that too,
I'm sorry.
anyone that's gonna look at costs or anything in property, I heard you guys talk about like farming and all that land back in the day when they made that decision. Anybody that's looking at costs is not gonna take away their soil that is pretty good soil to build on to not have.
I don't
So I
want
just
to pay
want to
for
make
it.
that,
Yeah.
like I heard that earlier, and I'm sorry to talk for everybody, but talk for myself. Like that'd be a waste of money for U-Haul to say, hey, we're taking good soil and we're just gonna throw it away. And we're gonna utilize that. That's cost savings. Moving dirt is probably one of the most expensive things when it comes to buildings. It's probably my fourth, fifth property in the state of New Hampshire. It's the most expensive to move dirt. So to utilize soil on another property and then bring it back, that costs money alone just to truck it. So we moved it because it was just, at the end of the day, I talked to Gail, I'm like, what was the right move to do here? And it was to move, dry it up, bring it back. It's good quality soil, let's bring it back.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say. I heard you talk about it earlier, Matthew, and I just wanted to say that you're spot on. Like it's an old kind of rule of law that she was saying, Leanne was saying, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, why would I waste money at that point? So I just wanted to say that. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's any way in the future, you probably want to think about that rule because it was definitely probably farmland. I could understand because that's really rich soil on the farmland. But for commercial for wise, I wouldn't get rid of anything that's going to cost me money at that point.
Thank you. Any questions?
See, I don't know if the spirit of the ordinance back in the day was loam topsoil is valuable. So they didn't want people going in, stripping the farm, selling it. I don't know if there's a way the town was gonna tax it, where they, like when you cut trees and you log, the town has a timber tax.
There is a tax. There is an intent to excavate tax through the state. It's an assessing tax. It's done through Department of Revenue, and they've all filed their intent to excavate with the state.
So they figure out how many yards of topsoil left.
Just
in the
like
back.
you said, the trees,
Yep.
just like intent.
Yep, the town doesn't tax it, the state taxes it.
But the town,
I think this was put in place because that was valuable to the town of Tilton.
It
It just
was.
was. And if
It
you
is.
strip it, then Tilton had nothing.
correct.
So as a town, they're preserving their well-being.
And the town would get the tax money.
Sure. And
Yeah.
so I can see that.
It makes sense in the context of a farm.
Right. But not
It's-
now.
No.
Not in a
No.
commercial district.
No,
Any other questions for him? No?
No.
Any public comment?
Here again, Tom Damon. According to the, what I've heard in my tenure in the planning board, is the reason that they do this is exactly what you said, but it is a law in town. Whether it's an archaic law or whether it isn't, it's still in effect. I have no objection to anybody taking rock or debris, blasting debris, or any other kind of debris off site. The spirit, we can say this all we want, but there are people who make money doing this. And I understand the surrounding developments, they sell the soil and they make money to do the site work. That's part of the project. But I think the law as it exists, I'm in favor of them removing undesirable debris. But as far as taking the loam and putting it over in East Podunk someplace, and then maybe bringing half of it back and selling the rest of it, I'm not in favor of that. Loam belongs to the town of Tilton. Well, it doesn't belong to the town of Tilton. It belongs to the landowner. But it's not in the best interest of the town to have all that soil taken away and sold to somebody else. It's just one of those things that these were well thought out rules and regulations many years ago. They weren't done on a whim. So I'm in favor of them taking any debris off the site, whether it's rock or whether it's hard pan or whether it's clay soil, and bringing soil back in. We don't need a permit to bring stuff in. They don't need a permit to do that. Need a permit to take it out. It's no big deal. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
I have a question for you though. Are you against removing the loam and the town receiving revenue from it? Would that be okay if?
Sir, that's not my concern. I mean, that's up to the jurisdictional bodies that cover that.
Mhm.
So my personal opinion is I'm setting that aside. But what I'm saying is now that that I was there going by this is another site. I was going by, they were loading a triaxle dump trailer full of overburden or loam, topsoil. Now, where that triaxle dump trailer went, I have no idea because I didn't stay around long enough. But anybody with any logic would say, where's that truck going?
But they do own the loam.
They bought it with the property. That's a Mind Earth product. And
So I'm saying is if the town were to receive revenue from it, would it be okay to sell the loam?
no, I don't know.
Or
I'm still ambiguous about.
It's just there's so much loam, maybe they can't use it all, and they need to remove it. But if the ordinance, I think, was put in place.
Right, I think we're getting a little bit into the weeds here. I think that the intent of this ordinance or this special permit is to make sure that nobody's doing something unreasonable, buying 400 acres of the town, scalping all the stuff of the dirt off of it and making it disappear.
Agree.
I don't know how on earth we would ask a development project who took the topsoil for their 5,000 square foot building and then say, no, you have to just pile that up in a pile on your property. You can't grade your property for stormwater drain off. I don't think that's the intent of this rule, is to stop, reasonable development projects from doing with the soil on the property that they own.
Correct.
My take on the intent of this is that somebody doesn't buy up half the town, scalp all the good soil off and sell it off.
Yeah, because then it's useless land.
So I feel like we're getting in the weeds on these little projects. The permit's there and they come through the board, and
I agree with you. These projects that we're hearing tonight have already been approved by the planning, by zoning, by everyone. So
yeah.
No, I agree with you there.
And in all of these projects, it's not in their interest to get rid of all of their loam. They're going to have to buy loam from a landscape company to truck it back into the town to cover it back up. I don't.
Yeah. I agree.
Do you have more to add? I kind of cut you off, so I apologize for that. Any other public comment? All right. We'll close public comment and I guess deliberate as a board, but we've kind of already done that.
Kind of already did that.
Anything else to add?
No.
Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve ZB 23-06, a special permit, Article 3.2.2 to allow the excavation of a material in the industrial district.
Any seconds?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? No. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There are none opposed. The ayes have it. The permit's granted.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Night.
Yep.
That is our last case for the night. We have some minutes to approve, though.
Is that going to be for a reason?
What's that?
Oh.
We need to do minutes on the site visit and the last meeting.
Yes.
Right. Before we do minutes, are you just?
Do you have a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just read the continue. Why are they asking for variance?
So the ordinance in the town right now, and correct me where I get the details wrong here. It's kind of messy. The ordinance for the town states that you have to have a 1995 HUD certificate stamp.
Installation. All in accordance with the HUD.
Correct. And no 1995 HUD standard exists. Actually, yeah, that's correct. Thank you. You just have to state who you are.
Not for manufacturing, it's for installation, correct?
The way that it's worded and our interpretation was that it needed to have a 1995 HUD stamp.
Okay. I went through this. I own a mobile home park. Some of you know me, some of you don't. Jason Wright, 570 West Main Street. I own a small mobile home park, and I went through this bringing in a 1980s mobile home for my stepson and his family. And the reading, when I went to the Selectmen, it had nothing to do with the variance and had nothing to do with the date of manufacture of the unit. It just said in the ordinance, must be installed in accordance with HUD 1995 standard. And that had to do with blocking, tie downs, the pad, all the subsurface stuff. So I had been told by many people, oh no, you can't have a 1980 because you have to have a 1995 manufacture date or certification. And that, when I went and got a copy of that HUD standard of 1995, it was an installation standard. The blocks had to be a certain thickness, it had to go a certain way, and you couldn't use more than a certain amount of shim. It had to be hardwood shim between the blocking and the frame. So I don't know if that research all took place, but.
Well, it was a part 2 to this whole thing.
Okay.
So the part 2 is that they're trying to install it on a site that is part of a variance.
Oh, gotcha.
And in the discussion 10, 15 years ago, I apologize, I don't remember the
Granting the
date exactly.
variance.
In granting the variance for the additional lots,
Yep.
there was some pretty spelled out discussion amongst the zoning board at the time that they wanted to put a number of years that the mobile homes could be old
Yeah.
as a contingency
As part of that.
in that variance.
Yes.
So once we
And it's in the
piled
minutes.
It's in the minutes, yes.
piled the two things stacked on top of each other, and it just kind of became this real gray mess that we didn't feel the town could get a good grasp on saying like yay or nay to.
Specific to that property.
Correct.
I felt a little bad for the folks, but then I had heard through the grapevine that somebody was trying to put a camper on and it wasn't a mobile home. And there was so much, I just wanted to hear the real story because I just finished sewer and I came up and I saw it was continued. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it was
Yeah. All right.
a bunch of layers.
Oh,
I would think
that's a
we've been
mess.
hearing this case for 4 or 5 months
Mm.
at this point. So we've been trying to do our due diligence.
Right. I thought it was all done and I saw it on the minutes as a continuance and I went, oh, I got to come get an update. So,
Yeah, we went.
sorry to
and site
bother you.
visit.
And I know you guys are
No.
busy and stuff, but it's okay. Thanks. I'm out.
Okay, minutes of the site visit for Gaslight Village. Any motions
I
to
make a
approve those?
motion to accept the minutes of the site walk, 49 Gaslight Road on January 26, 2023 at 4 PM.
I'll second it.
Brian seconded.
Yep.
Those in favor?
All right.
Aye, minutes are approved. And then we need a motion to approve the minutes from January 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 17th, 2023.
I
Motion
second it.
made and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes?
No.
No? All those in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Motion to adjourn, unless you guys have anything else you want to bring up. So. Motion to adjourn?